Welcome to the regular board meeting for the Washoe County Regional Transportation Commission. This is our regular final meeting of 2019. We want to thank everybody for being here with us this morning. So with that, Madam Clerk, will you, can we have roll call, please?
Certainly. Mayor Smith?
Here.
Oscar Delgado? Von Hartung?
Here.
Neoma Jordan?
Here.
Bob Lucy?
Here.
Welcome to Amy Cummings?
Here.
Dale Ferguson?
Here.
And Cole Mortensen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thanks, we have a quorum.
Cole doesn't know how to run the microphones.
Run the mic. The red light isn't coming on.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So, Zev Carlson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Zev? Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Sorry to catch you off guard. All right. So we are on to our, actually, before we get started here, this is Mrs. Cummings' first meeting. She will be helping me run the meeting this morning, but we will jump right in. I want to thank and welcome her to the board and for in her capacity as our interim executive director. We're very excited to have her on board, and hopefully that we can work through this process and get it cleaned up pretty quickly. But anyways, we want to jump right into our special recognitions this morning. So what I'll do is I'm going to have Michael come up to the podium. For our first recognition this morning, we're going to recognition of the RTC by the Food Bank of Northern Nevada for Stuff-A-Bus Holiday Food Drive.
Chairman, thank you. Members of the board, Michael Moreno, RTC Public Affairs Manager. I would like to welcome to the podium Nicole Lamboli, who is the CEO of the Food Bank of Northern Nevada.
Thank you, Michael. For the record, Nicole Lamboli, President and CEO of the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, and we are extremely grateful for the partnership that we have endured with the RTC for a number of years in helping us feed our members of our community who face insecurity with food every day. This year, through the Share Your Christmas drive-by food drive that is sponsored by KTV and Channel 2, you can see the bus that was stuffed and delivered to the Grand Sierra last Friday at the wee hour of 6 a.m. That food will help feed 91,000 people that we are feeding every month in our community. So we greatly appreciate the support from the community and the RTC's efforts to help engage the community in stuffing the bus to help eliminate hunger in our community. So thank you, and we look forward to continuing the partnership. And in another year, I hope to be back here with another Stuff the Bus event.
Well, thank you, Ms. Lamboli. We do love having the partnership with the Food Bank in Northern Nevada. You guys do a wonderful job for our community, and we're very happy and privileged to share this with you and this opportunity. So if we could get a picture, Michael, can we do that? Should we? Let's go down there.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty cruel.
We'll come down there.
We all have the flu, Nicole. Sorry, we're just gonna stay up here. No.
If you volunteered for this food drive, please come up and be a part of the photo.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I don't want to take that. I don't want to take the spot. I mean, I didn't wear this just to take it.
I saw your photo.
Yeah! Woohoo!
Michael's good. All right, I think I got everyone. Oh, no. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I do it every year. This is like my obnoxious way.
Nicole, thank you so much for being here this morning. And, as you mentioned, we have a long-standing partnership with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. And it's very rewarding to be able to do the things we do and bring together our generous community to help support the food bank. So congratulations on a very successful food drive, and we'll see you next year. So our next recognition, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't want
No,
to
it's
steal
good.
this.
You want to go? You go ahead, Michael, please. Actually, that's better.
Our next recognition of the RTC is by the Washoe County Social Services Department for the Stuff a Bus Drive-By Donation Drive for foster and adoptive children. This is a first-year event, and I'm very proud to introduce Amber Howell from the Washoe County Social Services Agency to say a few words.
Welcome, Ms. Howell.
Good morning. Amber Howell for the record, a director of Washoe County Human Services Agency. This was the first year that we did a Stuff a Bus donation drive for children in foster care. We've been doing it with the collaboration of RTC with seniors every May, very successful event. For those of you who may not know, there are over 800 children in foster care in Washoe County. And so this drive was to do two things. One is just to raise awareness of how many children are not at home with their parents, but also to provide necessary winter items and clothing for them throughout the year that we use at our Family Engagement Center where families can come and get donations for all the 12 months of the year. We raised over $8,500 for this event, so I'd like to publicly thank the RTC and Sam's Club for this amazing and successful drive, and we hope to be doing it every year hereafter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amber. We appreciate it. And once again, this is as a vice chair, just acknowledge that these are such great events to bring forward and have these issues brought into the community and have the community participate and understand the challenges that the foster kids go through every year, the seniors go through, those types of vulnerable citizens within our community, and how that helps. And RTC is happy to be part of that. So thank you. Well, let's grab another one. Grab a photo.
Let's do one more photo. Chris Yarlow, who also works at the Washoe County Social Services Department, also was a great partner in this. And I'm going to have Lauren be in the picture, and I'll take the photo. I got it. Okay, smile, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for helping and giving us the patience to recognize those individuals this morning. So we're on to our first item on the agenda this morning. This is approval of the agenda. We do need to make some adjustments to the agenda. Madam Director, do you have some adjustments you need to make?
Staff would like to pull item 3.20.
Okay.
For future meeting.
So we're going to pull item 3.20 off the agenda. Are there any other items that any of the board members would like to make adjustments to the agenda this time? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion from Vice Chair Jardin, second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are on to item 2.1. This is public input. I do have individuals signed in this morning, and I will call them down. If you haven't signed in for public comment, you can sign in over here with the clerk. Donna Klontz. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Commissioners, council members, NDOT folks, and all the folks that are part of this. And congratulations, Amy, on being the interim for RTC. My name's Donna Klontz. I am here on behalf of the seniors in a lot of different ways. We have a Reno Senior Advisory Committee, a Washoe County Senior Advisory Board, a new Sparks Board that's working on seniors, and then we have an age-friendly community group that's working on transportation issues generally. And I wanted to say something about the Stuff-A-Bus. Congratulations on such a good turnout this time, first time out for the kids. We thank especially Councilwoman Nia Majardin, who was our person at Reno, who came up with the idea and got our senior advisory board to give it a start a few years ago with the city of Reno. And because of Lauren and Chris and others, they've created, and all of us have created partnerships now with Sam's Club and RTC's buses so that the community and Colo Cares Channel 8 has been out telling the community about the needs of our different parts of our community, and they've been so generous to come out and stuff those buses at different times of the year. So thank you, RTC, for making that possible. I wanted to say a couple of things about the Flex bus that is being tried out right now. Marcy Coopersmith and I went and rode the bus, the Flex bus, last week, and we had a really good experience. My only issue still is learning how to use that app. It wasn't wanting to work for me, but I used the phone call number and called the center and got specific help to get the ride that I needed to get there and get back again. They were really helpful. But I think we need to add a phone number to your flyers, because there are lots of folks who do not use those smartphones and can't do the connecting to the Flex ride without calling a number. And there wasn't a phone number on the flyer that we saw at the Centennial Plaza when we rode it. So we're hoping to see that extends to other parts of the city. I know you're talking about Sun Valley next. I'm hoping to see South Meadows area someday too, because as several of us went to the open house in South Meadows with RTC about transportation and transit ideas down there, a lot of us think that Flex bus would also work for folks that don't drive, to be able to move through those neighborhoods well. The second thing is the double-decker bus that you're trying out. I haven't had a chance to ride it yet, but my husband and I travel all over the world, and so we spend a lot of time riding those hop-on, hop-off buses all over the place, as well as in Hong Kong and Great Britain, where they have a lot of the double-decker buses anyway. So I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see it used as maybe a hop-on, hop-off kind of thing. Maybe a public-private partnership could emerge with that. So good luck with that. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you, Donna. Next, I have John Locke.
Sorry, where's my stuff?
Good morning, Mr. Locke.
Good morning. Just a little something I'd like to share with the board. I know that the board had a part in hiring Keolis. I don't know if you realize it or not, but the GM that is running the bus system was also the director of public transportation in Alaska and was terminated. Don't know why he was terminated, but from my standpoint, it would show that what he has done here, he did there. He has lied to every bus driver. He has not only lied, but dishonored and disrespected all of the drivers. Not only with how he's run the bus system, but how he has taken a simple system and garbled. That's the only word I can say. There are drivers that are fighting for their hours. They shouldn't have to. One driver in specific had to wait almost a month for 20 hours on his paycheck. That's not right. It's not right by any standard. It's harmful to the drivers, it's harmful to our health, and it's very harmful to our attitude. We like our jobs. We don't like the company that's running it. This nice lady that was just up here brought up the double-decker. Reno doesn't need a double-decker. There are too many things that can go wrong with a double-decker. You're asking for a party bus in Reno. We don't need that. This town has gotten away from being a tourist town, now it's a industrial town. We have all the warehouses going up. We have less tourism than we had 15 years ago. We don't need a double-decker. You're asking for a lot of problems, people falling down the stairs, people getting drunk upstairs. We have a lot of people that drink on the bus. I've seen it. I'm a driver. I'm the front line. We don't need a double-decker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. Next signed in, I have Sandy Hill.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Hill. I'm a vice president at Keolis. And first, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I absolutely love that suit. And Amy, congratulations to you on your new position. So first of all, I'd just like to address the gentleman. We so appreciate your service. But just to make sure that it's taken into context, the GM that we have hired, we feel he is highly qualified for this job. The termination came as a result of a new mayor coming into town, being elected, and hiring his own appointees. So it wasn't a termination for cause. And I want to tell you, my purpose of being here is to tell you how much we appreciate this partnership, and we will do everything in our power to support our GM there to provide excellent service to this community. So with that, I just want to wish you all a happy holiday season and safe holiday season on behalf of the entire Keolis team. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Appreciate it. All right, seeing no further public comment, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. We're on to item 2.2. This is accept the monthly summary report for technical citizens, multimodal, and regional road impact fee advisory committees. Mrs. Director.
The advisory committee reports are in your packet, and we're happy to answer questions.
Okay. Any questions by the board members? Seeing none, looking for a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hartung, second by Mayor Smith. Second by Mayor Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We are on to item 3, which is our consent agenda. This is items, obviously, 3.1 through 3.19, with 3.2 being pulled from the agenda this morning. Are there any questions or items that need to be pulled out of the consent agenda this morning? No? Seeing none? All right.
Move to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Garden, second by Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right. All right, Ms. Director, we are out of our consent agenda. We are on to item 4.1.
4.1 is a report from INDOT about the Spaghetti Bowl project.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. For the record, Nick Johnson, NDOT Project Management. So I got one slide today, an exciting slide. I'm happy to present that as of Tuesday, the State Transportation Board awarded our unsolicited design build contract to the Ames Q&D team. So the project's moving forward. With that being said, the contract value is roughly $181 million. We're going to be kicking that project off here in January, getting it going so we can anticipate to see construction starting this summer with a substantial completion date of November 2022. So those are just a few highlights for it. And as I mentioned, it's a very short slide today, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
All right, thanks, Nick. Do we have any questions? Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. I did want to thank everybody involved, attended some of those State Transportation Board meetings, and very appreciative of the governor and the board taking the option that moves the project forward in the fastest, in my opinion, most efficient manner. I did want to clarify for the record, there was a article that gave the impression that there was a loss, somehow a loss of federal funding, which I think wasn't accurate. Or wasn't clear, certainly in the headlines. So could you clarify that what actually happens with those federal funds?
Absolutely, and I think you're spot on with what you just said. Federal funding has not been lost. I mean, we still have all of our federal funds that we have for our program, and we're going to reprogram and balance those federal funds out for projects across the state. But specifically to get this project moving forward in the manner that it came in with, we had to use state funds on it. But we still have all of our federal funding. We didn't lose any, and we're going to be using it on as many projects as we possibly can so that we can get as many improvements out statewide this year.
Thank you. And for the record, so it got shifted. It didn't get lost, it got shifted.
That is-
And for the record, did that shift in any way cause any additional contributions from Washoe County taxpayers to fill that shift?
I don't know, but I don't believe so. But we can certainly double check, but I don't see why that would in any way.
Okay, and those were just to get clarifications on the record. I got some letters and things that I think it was a little bit misunderstood. My question is with regards to the Governor's Bowl, and I'm saying this for your benefit and for Cole's benefit because he's here too, and I know Christina Swallow and the Governor are aware of both the CHAB and was it this board that wrote a letter asking for potential use of that? I know it's going to be impacted to some degree during this project for future homeless services. We are still very, very interested in seeing, if the state would somehow work with us on securing that property for those services sooner rather than later. So I'm saying that publicly because we are all very interested, as we all know, the needs in our community to expand some homeless services in that area. That was more of we still want it and we want it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Any other questions for Nick at this time? All right, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Director, we are on to item 4.2. Yes. Oh, yes, sorry.
So moved.
Can I get a motion to accept the report? I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung, a second from Vice Chair Jordan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. All right, Madam Executive Director, 4.2, please.
Chair Lucy, before we move into 4.2, I just want to make the board aware of a minor technicality we had in the signature block of this agreement. It will be the interim executive director that signs it to stay congruent with our internal policies. And so any motion to approve this, if the board approves it, it'll be understood that it's the interim executive director that signs it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Hartung.
Motion to approve with the interim executive director signing in place of the former executive director.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung, second from Vice Chair Jordan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Looking forward to hopefully that Spaghetti Bowl project getting up and going quickly. All right, we are on to item 5. This is our public hearing. This is, we will open the public hearing. This is a discussion recommendation to approve the resolution adopting amendment number 1 to the FY 2020 to 2024 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the RTIP, and self-certification for the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process. So with that, Madam Director, will you give us some information on this, please?
Thank you. This amendment to our 5-year program brings it up to match the agreement that was just approved by NDOT for the Spaghetti Bowl Express project.
Okay, great. Mr. Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Marino, RTC Public Affairs Manager, on behalf of Interim RTC Director of Planning, Dan Dunges. You've heard information with regards to this item with the two previous agenda items. This proposed amendment, number one, to the federal fiscal year 2020 to 2024 Regional Transportation Improvement Program just outlines what we have done with respect to this information in the tip. So unless there are any other questions, I can go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
Just to make you aware of our public comment process, this public comment period began on November 27th and concluded yesterday on December 19th. It was advertised through media outlets, including our social media channels. It was presented to the RTC Technical Advisory Committee, and today we are holding the public hearing to approve this TIP amendment. I will tell you that there were no comments received from the public throughout the public comment period. That concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you, Mr. Moreno. Are there any questions from the board in regards to the process or the details of this? All right, this is a public hearing. Is there any public or anybody wishing to speak on this item at this time? Seeing none, I'm closed public comment on public period on this. So we are now on to the recommendation to approve the resolution adopting amendment number 1 to the FFY 2020-2024 RTIP and self-certification for the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process. Looking for a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Motion from Commissioner Hartung, second from Mayor Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. We will close the public hearing. We're on to our item 6, Director's Reports. This is 6.1 RTC Executive Director Report. Ms. Cummings.
Thank you. There are 3 public meetings coming up in January we wanted to let you know about. On Thursday, January 9th, we'll have a community open house at Dilworth Middle School from 5 to 7 to talk about our Prater Way rehab project, and that project extends for that our Sparks Boulevard to Howard Drive. That's work that's expected to begin in April. On January 14th, we'll have a community open house for the Lakeside Drive Road Rehab Project, and it will be at Bartley Ranch from 5 to 7. And that work is expected to begin in June of this year, or next year. Both of the meetings will have presentations at 5:30, and they will also be live streamed on RTC's Facebook channel. And finally, on January 23rd, we will have another public meeting for the Audie Wells project to talk about the 60% design. We'll have a presentation at 6, and it will also be live streamed on Facebook. There have also been some Vision Zero safety events this month that we wanted to let you know about. RTC attended Councilman Delgado's pedestrian safety community meeting at Trainer Middle School on December 10th, talking about pedestrian safety. And on Monday, we were able to participate in Councilman Delgado and Renown's, and with Vice Mayor Reese, to open a new pedestrian-activated flasher on Kerman near Renown to improve that busy crosswalk. And there are some photos. Also wanted to let you know that on Friday, November 22nd, RTC hosted the governor at 4th Street Station. He wanted to use our electric bus program as the backdrop for the signing of his executive order to address climate change in Nevada. And Commissioners Delgado and Commissioner Hartung were participating in that event representing the board. Wanted to let everyone know as well that the RTC New Year's Eve free safe ride will have its 35th year, this New Year's. Service will be free from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. This is made possible with the support of many of our community partners who will be recognizing at our meeting next month. And we do have a video, a public service announcement that we wanted to show about the free safe ride. And in particular, to thank Dr. Chris Dieter from Renown.
If you're impaired or distracted, do not get behind the wheel. Use extra caution and watch for pedestrians and bicyclists, especially in the dark. Pedestrians, put down the phone when you're on crosswalks. Look both ways and pay attention. Plan a safe and sober way home. Take RTC Transit for free this New Year's Eve from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Plan your trip at rtcwashoe.com. And don't spend your New Year's Eve in the ER.
Great, that's great.
So So we want to thank Dr. Chris Dieter for participating in that and for Renown for being our signature sponsor this year. And RTC administrative offices will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, and our fixed route will be on the Sunday schedule for both of those days. And finally, we wanted to let you know that back in October, we had discussed having the transit workshop. We'll be bringing that back as part of our January board meeting. So it'll be January 17th, our regular meeting day. We will be at a different location, the Sure Stay Best Western, which is at 1981 Terminal Way, across from our Villanova facility. It will start at 9, and we'll have our regular meeting for any required business and then the transit workshop. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cummings. Appreciate that. Any questions for the executive director? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cummings, tell me, was there any damage done to the Villanova facility from the spill on 580?
No, there was not.
Okay.
And we were able to get back in and resume operations within about an hour.
No, and I want to thank you for the prompt updates. It was extremely helpful, and in fact, you ended up unknowingly being a news feed because we were at the food drive. Commissioner Lucy, Chair Lucy, and I were at the food drive, and Mike Alger was updating people to try to divert them because it was a real mess on all the side streets. But you did a great job just keeping us informed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would like to thank Rob Reeder and Mark Baloney and the Keolis team and many others on the RTC staff for making sure that transition happened effectively and efficiently as we moved operations out of Villanova during that.
Great. Right, thank you. Commissioner Delgado.
Thank you, Chairman. Just really quick, just wanted to, again, show my appreciation to all the staff, the communications, Amy, everyone else being so open to meeting with the community and being very reactive and being very thoughtful in terms of all the issues that were taking place across the region. I think the community really enjoys and appreciates RTC being present and giving them highlights in terms of what we're doing now immediately and then what we're looking forward to in the near future. So thank you, Amy.
Awesome. Great. Any more comments? All right. Seeing none, we will close that. We're on to the federal report. Ms. Cummings.
Thank you. The federal report is in your packet. The two things I wanted to highlight is that Congress did pass a continuing resolution that removed the rescission that we talked about last meeting that would have had a very adverse impact on state funding for Nevada, but Congress has addressed that. And there is also a Mobility for All grant that we'll be applying for. We want to look for funding to streamline the process for our access customers who use Medicaid transportation. So we'll be submitting that by January 6th.
Great. All right. Any questions on the federal report? All right. Seeing none, we will move on from the federal report. We're on to 6.3. This is our monthly NDOT report, and we are joined today by the Deputy Director, Mr. Cole Mortensen. We want to thank you and welcome you to come in. So,
all right, well, good morning, and thank you. As always, we kind of like to start off with kind of a report on the safety throughout the state. Right now, we've experienced 243 fatalities this year, which is down from 2018, where we had 308. The pedestrian fatalities are down 17%, and the unrestrained occupant fatalities are down 44%. So we're continuing to move to making our facilities a safer environment for everyone. There are a number of points here that I wanted to follow up on requests from previous meetings. The advanced system for the signals, the warning system for the signals, what we'd like to do is come back and try to get an agenda item for you guys in January to present the study on that. We are looking into motorists using the XL decel lanes near Shawnee-Va. We have our safety guys looking into that. The do not block intersection stuff at Emerson Pyramid Way. We're looking at putting the signage up there. However, the striping that would go down is temperature sensitive, so depending on when we have the weather to be able to do that, our maintenance crews will get out and do that. The question regarding the studies, speed studies out Pyramid Way, we've actually done 4 studies so far, and those studies include, driver behavior as well as crashes, safety issues, those types of things. So a study was done in May of 2016, November of 2016, September of 2017, and August of 2018. So we continue to monitor the speed out through that corridor to ensure that we're operating at the safest speeds possible. Next, there was some concern about the overnight closures of 395 to replace the Pardandini Boulevard Bridge. And what we generally do in those cases is that we'll do a closure during off-peak hours, so it won't impact the commute. We'll close it down, we'll demolish the structures, and get it back open. Generally, that's a pretty common method for us to do that. So we don't anticipate it being a big impact to your commute. Number 6 that I have here, the flooding at Eagle Canyon Drive. Part of the issue is that we have drainage coming down from further south of Eagle Canyon that flows along the west side of Pyramid Way, and it gets to that culvert, and it's just over capacity. And so we're currently working with the city of Sparks to install a drainage crossing further to the south. I want to say it's around Dolores. That should help reduce the amount of flow that's actually going to that culvert at Eagle Canyon and should improve the flooding situation there. We have 2 school zone areas that we're currently looking at and investigating. In fact, we had a meeting on Monday regarding the school zone at Wooster and potential improvements that we can do there around Wooster High School. We're also going to be looking at Hug High School as well, so we'll keep you guys up to date as we move forward with those. And that's all I have.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Mortensen? Commissioner Hartung.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mortensen, thank you. You literally answered every single question I had. That's phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Hey, we're trying. We're trying.
No, I'm deeply in your debt. And again, thank you very much, and to NDOT crews for getting the do not block intersection sign there at Emerson. That's actually, the people coming out are in District 5, which are actually not my constituents, but I still get calls from them because they're frustrated. On many days, they just can't get out. So thank you so much. It's still up to drivers to behave properly and pay attention to signs, but at least we're taking a proactive stance. So I want to thank NDOT very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair Jordan.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Cole and NDOT for their presence at that meeting on Monday. To elaborate a little bit, it was a good group of people, everybody from the school district and superintendents to the City of Reno Engineering to NDOT, to all kind of come together and say, how can we kind of address issues kind of globally around the entire area. So there was a lot of good ideas, suggestions, some things in the short term, the medium term, and the long term that we'll be looking at. So I just appreciate the collaboration from NDOT. And one of these suggestions that I know Councilman Delgado and I both want to explore is how we, when we're looking at schools, how crosswalks that are within a school zone or within a certain vicinity of a school automatically get a flasher. And how do we go about identifying what that spacing would look like and the funding? But I think it's important, rather than it being a one-off or sort of thing, that we look at it more, particularly as a mandate maybe for new schools, but certainly for legacy schools and older schools existing. How do we go about getting those flashers in at all crosswalks surrounding school zones? So thank you very much for being there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions? Cole, I want to thank you for coming this morning and providing us the update. One thing I wanted to ask you is, and this is kind of off the topic as it pertains to maybe not so much in our urban area here, but more of our rurals. Obviously, northern parts, Gerlach, that. How active is NDOT going to be in the routes initiative, the federal routes initiative, the rural opportunities to use transportation for economic success? that's being brought forward by the White House. It's to answer some of the funding issues to address rural infrastructure throughout rural parts of the western United States. Have you guys been actively involved in that, or?
You know, I'm not entirely sure to what extent we've been involved with that, but I know that there is more emphasis on providing assistance to the rural communities as far as infrastructure goes, because and that's a challenge for us on an annual basis. You know, from a revenue standpoint, part of the smaller counties, part of the rural areas, they just don't produce enough tax revenue to help maintain our facilities. So we're constantly trying to balance those priorities and do the best that we can to help the rural communities.
Yeah, and specifically, the reason we ask is obviously for, 267 out of Gerlach and some of those roads up there that need constant improvement and maintenance because we have major events that are that the urban areas benefit from, but that rural infrastructure definitely gets devastated by massive amounts of traffic, those kinds of things. So then maybe if Director Swallow and yourself and we could sit down and have those further discussions about how we can jointly go together and probably procure some of that funding for the rural counties.
Absolutely, and as we move forward too, I know Director Swallow is very interested in how we prioritize projects, and that'll be part of the One Nevada plan as we continue to roll that out. There's been a lot of discussion recently on with I'm always wrong on the acronym, but the Senate Committee Resolution 3, which was the greenhouse gas resolution. So we're looking at a number of ways as to how we prioritize projects and how we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But where I'm going with that is that we may see more of a funding emphasis on looking at how we can better maintain our existing infrastructure versus continue to add capacity and to increase VMT as well as those greenhouse gas effects. So there's a lot going on in that arena right now too, but I do think that in the future that may change how we prioritize our projects and potentially how we allocate our maintenance funding.
Right, great. And then one other thing is obviously as we move into the snow season, we're already got quite a bit of snow up in the mountains. Snow removal on the highways, how are the operations looking for this season going into this season?
So far, I haven't heard that that it's going to be any different than any other year. We did have some concerns about the GASX system up on Mount Rose, but those concerns have been alleviated. It's up and running, so I don't see any issues other than what we normally see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, any further questions? Seeing none, we will close that. Thank you, Mr. Mortensen. All right, we are on to item 7. This is 7.1. This is a receive a report on the FY 2019 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, otherwise known as the CAFR, for the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, RTC, and authorize staff to submit the documentation to the Nevada Department of Taxation.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. Stephanie Haddock, Director of Finance. And yes, I'm going to give an overview of our fiscal year 2019 comprehensive annual financial report and our annual audit. So I'd like to start with our revenues. For fiscal year 2019, we had $170 million in revenue. That was down 1.4% and $2 million over fiscal year 2018. We had $87 million in our fuel tax revenue. That was on target to budget and up $6 million or 7% over last year. The $6 million is again due to our indexing of our fuel tax revenue and the fact that we had an increase of 1.5% in our Washoe County gallons. We had $32 million in sales tax. That's up $1.8 million or 6% to our budget, and $800,000 or 3% over prior year. And that's mainly due to Washoe County sales tax being up, taxable sales being up 3.5% over last year. At $27 million in our federal operating and capital grants. It's actually down $30 million to our budget and down $16 million to last year, but that's all mainly due to the timing of our Virginia Street Small Starts grant. So we had expected that to hit in fiscal year 2019. It actually didn't get signed until August of 19, which is in our fiscal year 2020. So that affected the budget difference. And then we had more grant revenue in 18 due to the Fourth and Prater CIG grant and Tiger grant that funded that project. We had $5.5 million in passenger fares. That's down $860,000 to our budget and down $840,000 over last year. The passenger fares is mostly due to our ridership being down 3% over last year. We have $14 million in miscellaneous investment and other revenues. That's actually up $8 million to our budget and a $5.5 million over last year. Again, that's all a timing difference. We had $7 million in utility reimbursements that actually hit in fiscal year 19. We had expected those to hit in fiscal year 18, but they got delayed a little bit, again, due to the timing of our Virginia Street project. For our expenditures in 2019, we had $124 million. That's down actually $71 million or 36% over prior year. I know that sounds like a lot, but last year we had a lot more in construction expenditures. We actually had two major projects that were completed in fiscal year 2018. That was the Southeast Connector and 4th and Prater. So we have a little bit less in street and highway expenditures. We had $52 million in 2019. With the start of our Virginia Street project and our regular preventative maintenance program. Then in $39 million in ride expenditures, that actually includes a $1.4 million increase in our contractor expenses because this is our first full year of implementing the new Keolis contract. $22 million in debt service. That's actually $5 million less than fiscal year 18, and that's all due to the refunding that we just did for the 2013 and 2009 bonds. We had $9 million in access expenditures. That is $400,000 less than last year in our contractor costs because we actually had a 10% decrease in access ridership in fiscal year 19. We had $2 million in MPO expenditures, and that was up $427,000 over last year. So our total expenditures were actually $57 million under our budget. A lot of that is due to timing differences, but as usual, we continue to carry that money forward into our fiscal year 20 budget to continue funding public transportation operations and continuing funding for any of the projects that we currently have in design or are actually in construction. So now I'd like to go over our net position, which is really the overall indicator for RTC's financial position. Our total liabilities exceeded our assets by $143 million in fiscal year 19. We're in a unique position in that we always have this negative net position, and that is because we have $346 million worth of debt that we took out, and we don't have the infrastructure assets to offset that debt. So we took out the debt to do the road projects, but we don't own the road projects. That's always going to have, until that debt goes away, RTC will continue to have a negative net position. So our restricted net position increased $18 million over the prior year, and restricted net position refers to our funds, mostly our revenue sources, that are restricted either by statute, the bond covenants, or grant agreements. And the increase is mostly due to our decreases in our current liabilities, which is our accounts payable and our retentions payable, because again, we had less construction expenditures this year, so we had a lot less liabilities associated with those construction expenditures. RTC's negative unrestricted net position decreased $33 million, and that's, again, due to our long-term liabilities going down from the bond refunding. So when we refunded the bonds, we also decreased the overall debt of the RTC, and actually it's going to provide $45 million in debt service savings over the life of the bonds all the way through to 2043 when those bonds expire. So again, that was a very brief overview of our financial position and our finances. If you want more additional information, I encourage you to read the full management discussion and analysis in the CAFR and all the notes to the financial statements. Lots of detail in there. And for the audit itself, it was another wonderful year. We received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest possible rating we can receive. We had no findings or management comments on our financial audit, and no findings or management comments on our single audit, which is the review of all of our financial federal awards. I do have our auditor, Scott Nickerson, who's the manager for Crow, is here and available for any questions that you might have. And before I take any questions, I just want to take a moment to thank all of the RTC staff. I don't get these clean audits without their help and their great work that they do all year long. I also want to give special recognition to the financial manager, Yelena Williams, who's also here. Stand up and see you. She manages the whole team that puts this CAFR together, and I'd like to thank them. Their names are Linda Merlin, Hannah Yu, and Nelia Beelan. So they do a great job. I don't do this all on my own. I have a terrific team, so I want to thank them. So if you'd like to have any questions, I can take those now.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Could you go back to the slide that showed the graphs with street and highways, ride, access, and the this one? So the streets and highways, to me, this all looks great with two exceptions that I have some questions on, and those are the ride and the access downturn, which I think you indicated was due to a reduction in ridership.
Yeah, on access actually had a reduction of 10%, and I think that's just a sign of the economy, and that folks are actually probably utilizing their cars or getting other rides in other manners. We have a lot of options for our seniors nowadays, and unless you absolutely have to ride access, you don't use it. So I think we've moved some of those people onto our system, our regular public transportation system, and then they're also using other options that are available to them, such as probably Lyft and Uber and some other
Do you think
things.
any of them are doing the flex ride? Could some of them?
I would guess. I don't know that. I'm looking at our Director of Public Transportations. I'm not sure if we're keeping statistics on how many people have switched to flex ride from the access service. Do you know, Mark?
Not terrible. I'll do quick. Mark Maloney, Public Transportation. It is something we're not looking closely at yet, but we have gone through and done a quick scrub of our November data, and there was about 10 unique riders in that area that come from our access side. But the other is, remember when we adjusted the access time of the night and such, and then we upgraded our Washoe Senior Ride program? The Washoe Senior Ride program is now doing 3 times the amount of service that it used to do. So we've seen a lot of people, especially in the outer areas, jump over and use that. So it's been very effective. So it has, as we thought it would, the access is kind of retracted a little bit, and then people are using the other options that we've made available.
I think it's important that we continue to try to track what the, in the FlexRide pilot program, any access riders, because when we start to evaluate fiscal sustainability in both of those programs, we'd like to see, where some of them might be shifting to. I think that's important at the end of that study. The other thing is you said that fares were down on ride.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about, is it the number of riders is down, or is it because we gave some free, trying to dissect how things are trending?
It's both of those things.
Okay.
The fact that we have a little bit of a decrease in ridership, some of that is due, again, to the Virginia Street program or the project, and that BRT services is suffering a little bit from the project, but it'll be back once the project is done. The other thing is now we have all the university students not paying anymore. They're riding for free. And then we had a lot more free ride days than we have previously.
Okay. I think as we move into our next fiscal year and a permanent director, I think this is something we need to look at probably as close or closer than anything else.
Yeah.
We get the fuel tax that kind of shores up with its indexing, that shores up some of the projects that we do. Transit is always something that we need to keep a tight eye on, in that balance between people's ability to pay the fare, including university students, and our ability to maintain an adequate system.
And we always get requests for an expanded system.
Yes.
So I'm always very concerned when I'm looking at ridership going down. I understand the fare impacts on this and a project that could impact it. I'm always wanting to know what the trends are and why, and how we can shift those. Is it a different campaign as it relates to the university students to increase their ridership? Is it the double-decker bus, which we've heard from the students they would be more inclined to take because of an experience versus, I mean, it's those kind of things we need to look at more closely.
Yeah.
This is the thing I personally think is the number one focus for the next year.
And we'll address that a lot in our next meeting when we do the transit workshop. Those will be some of the things we bring forward. I do want to also state that going forward with at least the university side, we'll get some revenue out of that. They're going to be passing as part of their tuition that we'll get some revenue, so they will be riding our bus, but we'll also get revenue for that.
Good. I think it's important in partnership with the university that while free may be a temporary thing, we all need to make it sustainable, and their partnership is critical for us to be able to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Vice Chair Jordan. I had very similar questions. So perhaps what we can do, Ms. Hadlock, is at some point this is a macro look, and maybe we need to look micro at a micro level to see what routes are performing well, the routes that we did lose some money on in terms of just because we gave the rides away. And you've heard me say this on a number of occasions. Perhaps we need to look at the system as a whole and see if we can make it more efficient. Not just from the perspective of, is it earning money, but are we really moving people where they need to be? And I think this is potentially a canary in the coal mine where it's telling us that we need to make changes to the system because people perhaps have had to make alternative choices because the transit service is just not serving their needs.
Okay.
So and it's not a pejorative comment about staff. This is what businesses do all the time. They're constantly looking at these kinds of things to try to make determinations as to, where the losses actually occurred. Is it systemic? Is it going to kill us, or is it just an anomaly? My other question came back to our revenues being down, not much, but $2 million over fiscal year 2018. This was a banner year. How could our revenues be down? For me personally,
Most of that was just again, I emphasize the grant revenue,
okay.
And that's just it.
Okay.
It's just the timing of when we get the revenue reimbursed. All those are reimbursement grants, so we have to spend the money and then we ask for it in return.
Okay.
The thing I forgot to mention in my presentation, one of the things that we anticipated happening in 2019 was buying 17 new buses, and you just actually approved that on your consent agenda, so that happened in fiscal year 20. So you'll see that timing difference in next year's CAFR presentation.
But we'll still have the asset.
So,
The asset,
yes.
the asset will offset the expenditure, so it'll still be there. I was just wondering if traffic is any indication of people buying fuel,
The fuel tax revenue is up, but I want to emphasize that the only reason it is because we index it. If we had not done that and the voters had not approved that measure, we would not be seeing that because the gallons are starting to flatten out, and we're seeing efficiencies in vehicles and less driving, and people do use alternative modes, and the vehicles are more fuel efficient, and that will continue. That will continue. So it's a blessing that we have indexing in this county. The voters were wise, and they did that because they will continue to have great roads because of it. But that is the main reason for our continued increases in fuel tax.
No, I understand, and I perhaps need to get a more fuel-efficient vehicle. Mine will pass anything on the road except a gas station, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
And If I may
Ms.
add,
Cummings.
I appreciate this feedback, and these are all great topics for us to bring data back and have really in-depth discussions at our workshop next month.
Yes.
Ms. Haddock, I had one quick question for you. You did point out that the refunding of the bonds, from my understanding, when we did that at Washoe County Commission, we were going to see a net savings of roughly around 12 to 13 million, but due to the sale of that, we actually saw a larger.
Okay, yes, let me clarify the bond refunding. So we did one last year.
Correct.
In December of 2018, which would be part of this fiscal report. And that's the $45 million overall, the life of the bonds for refunding our 2009 and 2013 bonds.
Okay.
This December, and actually we just closed the bond deal yesterday, and you approved it in November, is the refunding of our 2010 B and 2010 C bonds. So in that refunding, we actually are going to save over the life of the bonds, I wrote it down, $33 million in additional debt service through 2040.
Well, so that's great.
So we
between
are
the
going to
2
see.
years, we're going to see 45 million from last year's refunding and 33.
So almost $100 million over the life of the bonds will we save from these two refundings.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Haddock. Thank you to you and your team for a very comprehensive, discussion on the CAFR. This is phenomenal information. Thank you. Seeing no further questions for Ms. Haddock, looking for a motion to accept the report and submit the document.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Vice Chair Jardine, second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haddock. All right, we are on to item 8.1. Ms. Cummings.
This is to acknowledge the receipt of the Virginia Street Bus Rapid Transit BRT Extension Monthly Progress Report, and our project manager, Jeff Wilbrecht, is here to provide the information.
Good morning. Jeff Wilbrecht, project manager for the Virginia Street project. I'll give a quick update of what's happened over the last month and kind of give a forward view of where we're going with the project. It's been going really, really well in Midtown. We've been starting work on the east side of the road between Holcomb Avenue and Center Street. We're already starting to see sidewalks in place all the way up through almost Arroyo and really close to Vassar. Actually, this morning, sidewalks are being installed. Those will be more or less complete without streetlight infrastructure quite yet, because those are a long lead time item, by mid to early January, at which time we're going to start working on the center roundabout. So there was a couple utility elements to do before we could really start doing the concrete work in the center roundabout at Mary Street and Center Street, and we're going to start that now that those utility elements are done in January. At the same time, we're going to also continue further north, since all this work in the south is being cleaned up and wrapped up, to continue the concrete work through the winter. So we're going to stay really busy through the winter months and get as much concrete work as we possibly can completed, so that once warm temperatures are available, we'll be paving and getting all the road improvements wrapped up. So overall, the project's going really smoothly. The contractor's getting a lot of work done. The outreach team's really been doing a lot of work to communicate about it, and it's been going well. We are also planning to start a lot of work in the North Virginia UNR segment of the project. So we've been packaging up the demo and the abatement bids for those 5 properties that we're in the middle of acquiring. And so that will happen in late winter, early spring. That work will occur, and immediately followed by all the proposed improvements in the university area. So the reconstruction of the section between 8th Street and 9th Street and the roundabout up near Lawler. Between those 2 sections, there's some ADA improvements that we're constructing for sidewalks and some restriping to facilitate the extension of the bus service. So anyways, that's going to happen starting as early as April 1st is when that construction is going to start. And we're doing a lot of outreach and communication with the university in preparation of that. To give a little bit of an update on construction, so thus far we're about 15.6 million into the project. Today you approved a couple change orders. There are a couple more that we're still working with the contractor to process through and negotiate and just make sure all the T's are dotted and the I's or the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And so we'll get those in the next month is my goal. I always like to show lots of photos. So here's a lot of the concrete going in. We did have a couple weather days in November that sort of slowed us down, but the contractor did a good job of protecting their work to minimize that impact. And that's all the the black blankets that you see to protect the concrete. Again, we always do a lot of outreach. Midtown did a Halladingo event in October, and now they're doing a Holladingo event. So this is kind of a fun thing that they're doing to, just promote themselves. And it's really great that they're starting to do that more. And these are really effective ways for them to do that. They had a Midtown holiday party that we went to help answer questions and just show support. We did have a kind of a good meeting with several businesses at 955 South Virginia Street about the project and just some of the design elements. And we had another good meeting with the Chamber, Midtown District, council members were there, and just to talk about different outreach items and communication and just clever ideas of how to bring those businesses together so they can be successful. And with that, we're continuing all our other normal regular outreach activities. June 3rd, we're going to do an outreach, kind of a coffee and bagels, just ask the project team any kind of questions that they may have, the community may have, as we continue northward. So now that we're going to start moving and working north of the roundabout, we know we're going to be impacting a new group of people. We're communicating with that. We're going to make ourselves available to just have a social time to answer questions in any way that they come. So with that, I'm always happy to answer any questions about the project and provide any other updates.
Madam Vice Chair.
January 3rd, I don't know what I said, but January 3rd is the coffee and answers.
Thank you. I did want to thank you for all of your guys' hard work. I think the construction is going really, really well. The sidewalks are so stinking incredible. If you've not been out there, they are amazing. It looks so good. And everything is progressing beautifully on the construction side. And everybody, there is only 12 months left. And I say only 12 months. To some, that sounds like a long time. It's going to be over before we know it. And I do want to say that there are a number of different groups, including the Chamber and the Midtown District, and there's kind of a new group that has formed to find ways to get the community to continue to support these local businesses in Midtown during construction and after. So you all know you still have some Christmas shopping to do, so do it in Midtown. Grab that gift certificate, grab that lunch or that drink, and support them. It really does mean a lot to them, and it could help them get through the cold months of winter and during construction. So there's some exciting things coming. The Abbey Agency has agreed to volunteer and donate their resources to help with a campaign. And we'll be kicking that off soon with a very coveted misspelled sign. So thank you for all your work.
Eagerly anticipating that. Jeff, I want to thank you as well. I think your team has done a phenomenal job keeping the community informed. Mr. Moreno, you as well. I try to get down to Midtown at least once a week, if not more. I enjoy a hamburger at Beefy's here and there. I'll go down and have dinner with my family at Lulu's, and we'll do, I'll have breakfast or whatnot at Two Chicks. I want people to understand getting in and out of Midtown is not the misery that everybody makes it sound to be. It's very easy to get in and out of Midtown. It's easy to get around at all hours of the day, whether it's dark, light, doesn't matter. It's been very functional. And I also want to thank Dan from SNC. You have done a great job. And when I talk to the businesses down there, when I have those conversations, Colleen at Lulu's pulled me aside the other night and she said, "Oh God, Dan's been great. They've been phenomenal. They've been very responsive, any challenges we've had." And we all know there's going to be hiccups with construction, and there always is, but SNC has done a phenomenal job of being very respondent and been there within hours to if not minutes, to fix any problem. So I want to thank you for your continued commitment to the project and making sure that Midtown area gets the respect that they deserve. So thank you. So thank you for staff. We appreciate it. Any other comments by board members? Seeing none, looking for a motion to accept the report. I have a motion from the Vice Chair. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Commissioner Delgado. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Welbrecht. All right, we are on to item 9.1. This is our general administration. So we have, this is our discussion and possible action pertaining to the recruitment process to fill the position for the RTC Executive Director. And before we jump into this, I do have some clarification we need to do in regards to our previous board meeting, so I'm going to turn the floor over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. In November, at our board meeting, I made a motion that the chair was to work with Mrs. Reich to advertise for the executive director position. My intent was not to create a subcommittee at that time. The intent was to merely to direct staff to consult with or brief the chairman to expedite getting the process started. Obviously, this board will determine process and procedures as we go forward. So that was not meant to create a subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So,
Just clarify, subcommittee or working.
that's
Yes, it wasn't to create a subcommittee or working group.
great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, appreciate that clarification. So I also want to introduce Ms. Angela Reich and Mr. Zev Kaplan that are here with us today. Zev, really quick, Zev Kaplan has been hired to serve as a legal counsel, outside legal counsel for the board and for the RTC to help with the process. He works directly with Ms. Reich on the process. They have been unified as a team since the job opening has been posted. So that maintains the transparency, but at the same time, confidentiality and privacy of those applying for the position and keeps the board out of those discussions. So we want to thank Mr. Kaplan and Ms. Reich for their willingness to take on this. And so with that, I also want to make one quick comment before you jump into this. Ms. Cummings and I have had a number of conversations before Mr. Gibson's departure. We have had a multitude of conversations with legal, that she has maintained a firewall between herself and the process, and that they will know is not informed of the inner workings of the process. She has willingly accepted that and continues her roles and duties as the interim executive director of the RTC, but has completely removed herself from this process and will not participate in this process until a decision is made. And so with that, I wanted to make that clarification for the record. So with that, Ms. Reich, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Lucy, Commissioners. Angela Reich, Administrative Services for the record. And the item I'd like to introduce before you is considerations for the recruitment of the RTC Executive Director for you to consider and provide direction. As Chairman Lucy just stated, HR will work independently from any RTC director staff or other staff in conjunction with Zev Kaplan here beside me. And HR will also screen the application materials and determine if applicants meet the minimum qualifications as outlined in the executive director job description. The job description was presented at the last board meeting, and it, excuse me, I'm kind of struggling with a cold this week. The job description is posted on our website along with the job announcement. And HR will be responsible for all communications with the candidates throughout the recruitment process. HR, I can report back at our next board meeting, January 17th, with the number of qualified applicants that we receive. And then depending on the number of qualified applicants, at the board's pleasure, I'm recommending that if there are 5 or fewer qualified applicants or a different number that you direct, that the board would interview those applicants. That could be at the February board meeting or at another as directed. If there are 6 or more qualified applicants or another number as directed, I can assemble an interview panel that can make a recommendation to the board for, 3 candidates or 3 to 5 candidates at your choosing. I will update you throughout the process. And then once you do interview candidates and identify someone, then you can provide direction on the negotiation of an employment agreement. So I'm not sure if I left anything out or if you have any questions or. The advertisement does close on Friday, January 3rd at 5 p.m.
Great, thank you, Ms. Reich. Any questions for Ms. Reich at this time? Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Can you kind of just briefly recap, like where you're posting the application? That's not the right word.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
position.
So the position was posted on Friday, November 22nd, and it did go out on monster.com, which pushes it out to various newspapers and websites, in addition to military.com and diversity job boards. It also went out on our RTC website, which surprisingly, we have just under 1,500 people signed up, so that when a job is posted on our website, it pushes out that announcement to, in this instance, it was about 1,400 people. It also went out on our Facebook and Twitter, the RTC Facebook and Twitter. And so we have had, so far, there has been, on our website alone, 156 people have opened up the advertisement, and there's been 146 clicks on that, so.
Okay, that's good. I guess do you want suggestions? Or-
Yes.
Okay. I guess my only thing is, that's great. I'm looking forward to next steps. My preference would be after they've been reviewed for minimum qualifications, those that qualify, I would have to imagine at this level of a job, we're not going to get, 100 people. I'd like to see the board interview them all. And if there's 15 or 20, maybe there's a process by which we do one round and then cull it down and then do another set of questions to something like that. I would prefer that this board see, assuming it's not, a huge number, that we see all the applicants.
So to the vice chair's point, one of the discussions that we've had, that briefly Mr. Kaplan and myself and Ms. Reich have had, is in regards to that application process. Once we have identified all of the applications on the close of the deadline on January 3rd, what would be the pleasure of the board? And we felt that, 5 applicants, under 5 applicants or 6 applicants, that it would be, and realizing that this is, as you pointed out, a very, very complex job. It's a very complex position. It's very, very high organization. So the people that will be qualified will be few. And so we wanted to see what the board's pleasure was in regards to, and this is like we've outlined in the presentation, that basic understanding. Now, if the board wants to see them all, we can do that. It just becomes a little bit tenuous when you have 20 interviews and you have to give them that type of time. But it's really at the pleasure of the board, and so I wanted to field that with you today to make sure we get that clarification prior to the January 17th meeting.
And if I may, on January 17th, you will know the number of qualified applicants. So if you change your mind or you want to defer until then, that's an option as well.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure that was just, you guys had the information today to make sure that that was something available for the process as you looked into it. The other thing that we did is discussed about having the idea of, if there are more than 6 applicants, or the board would like to direct Ms. Reich to put together an interview panel, because we want them to narrow it down, we would have to do that on the 17th as well. So those are the 2 options. I just want to make sure that those are clear for everybody. Any other questions for Mrs. Reich? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I like Commissioner Jordan, Vice Chair Jordan. I feel the same way. With all due respect to staff, I would like to see the applicants. And if we have a larger pool, we do, an initial interview of so many minutes, and then as we have done on the commission, Mr. Chairman, we do a closed ballot so that nobody can see how other commissioners are voting, and then just go through the narrowing process. I think that's probably the best way to do it. I also had a question for Ms. Reich. Have we advertised on the state's website?
On the state's website?
Yes.
I will have to double check if it feeds into that.
Okay.
But if it hasn't, then I can make sure that it does. Yes.
I would like to point out our previous director came from Las Vegas.
Yes. Well, and it's nationwide that when it goes out, but I can, make sure.
Okay.
Mr. Kaplan.
I would just like to make sure you understand that as we move forward, whatever the board wants to do, it's going to be a public meeting to consider these applicants. So at the time the agenda is posted and all the backup with who they are and all that, it becomes public information. So also not only so you know, but so potential applicants are aware of that.
Right, and that's always been, and that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure that if the pool gets too large, we will have to post all of their names onto that, which you're posting a number of names, ultimately selecting one. Those 9 other individuals may, it may have some deterrent. So I don't want to deter people from applying or going through the process, because it is an arduous process. And fortunately, thank God to the state of Nevada for the open meeting law. We have to go through it this way. However, I want to be sensitive to those individuals that are applying. If that they may not make that I think that's something we have to consider. So with that being said, and Mr. Kaplan, I do have a question for you. One of the processes that we did go through prior with the hiring of the county manager, would it be possible once all the applicants and the resumes have been collected, have an individual meeting with each commissioner from the board with you and Ms. Reich to view those resumes ahead of the posting?
Yes, I believe that'd be permissible. It'd be a briefing with legal counsel and staff.
Okay.
And advise you who they are, not necessarily want to, and we can keep that as attorney-client.
It would be an attorney-client, and it would
product.
be individual one-on-one with each
Right.
commissioner at
That's
an
right.
appointed time for them to look at the applicants.
So they're aware of how
Perfect.
many, who they
Yes.
are in general. But when it comes time for the actual interviewing, that has to be done in the public meeting and decisions made in public.
Understood, but prior to, just so that board members would have the time to actually sit with you and read through resumes and not do it right here on the podium, but prior to the meeting. I just want to make sure that's put on the record. Madam Vice Chair.
Just to clarify, though, there would be no action of any kind with those reviews.
Correct. No.
That would be simply a review of materials.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I guess what my feeling is, and I get the sensitivities. I mean, I know, I got it. I did this for a number of years, so I understand people don't always want their current employer to know they're searching. But I would also say you're applying for a public position at a taxpayer-funded entity. So we do things in a transparent and open manner, so you kind of know what you're getting if you're applying here. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for clarification, when they sat us down, we were given no information that we were able to take away. We got no resumes that we walked away with. There was no binder with all the names in it that we got to take with us. It was a simple review of the names, their qualifications, their resumes, and in fact, they really didn't give us, other than their qualifications, they didn't say, well, this person is better than this person.
Right. No, that's exactly the same way we would follow it, because at that point, the staff would not be doing ranking of people.
Right.
Just
No,
say
there
who
was-
is
there was no-
qualified or not qualified.
That's
Right.
precisely correct. There was no ranking whatsoever. It was just merely the application and their resumes attached.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the clarification. So seeing with the consideration of the options that we have in front of us, is it the board's pleasure that we delay this until the January 17th meeting once we have a better understanding of the applicant pool? Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I guess my only direction would be, in order to kind of expedite, and maybe this is a suggestion or direction to staff as they work behind, assuming let's say there's 10 applicants, and we move in a direction of, we'll call it a lightning round of questions and then a more in-depth round of questions, that maybe we can direct staff to be developing now both scenario options so that we don't end up having to outline that at the next meeting. In other words, that maybe that can be presented to us at the next meetings, regardless, whichever one, so that when it comes to the time for interviews, we kind of know what that those questions will look like and how that process will go. And you at the county have done it, we've done it at the city. It's actually it's a pretty good process where they sequester those that aren't in front of the board so they can't see the questions, hear the responses, et cetera. But rather than us giving that kind of a direction, maybe you have that ready and it's at the next meeting and we can pick based upon the number of applications. So we can move it along. I don't want to have another meeting to talk about that at the
Right,
next
no,
meeting.
no. Commissioner Harton.
Thank you, and I'm not trying to belabor this, but we were informed that we could not force sequestration, that it had to be voluntary because of the open meeting law. So we just recently went through this. Staff gave us questions that may be potential questions, but then they also gave us the ability to create our own questions. And then it might be nice for us to potentially ask a question off the cuff, because the person that we want to put in, we want them to be nimble. We want them to be able to think quickly. We want them to, have to come up with good answers and in-depth answers. And sometimes a commissioner, even though we look through, some questions, you think, well, maybe there's something else that I'm interested in. So it's helpful for staff to come up with some outlines, but I think we can also come up with some fairly good questions ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add to that.
Yes.
I mean, a suggestion would be, if we're going to brief commissioners, at that time, we can sit down with anyone that's interested, besides having some general questions staff comes up with, to assist with anything you're thinking of to help develop questions. And I agree. I think when you're interviewing people, you may ask certain questions, depending on the response, you're then going to have a follow-up question you hadn't thought of before. So.
Great, all right. Well, I think Ms. Reich, Mr. Kaplan, thank you for coming this morning. I think you've gotten plenty of direction this morning from the board in regards to the process. I want to thank you both for working on this as hard as you have. So this is for possible action. So just looking for a motion to accept this.
Motion to move forward with the discussions, taking into consideration the discussions here today.
I have a motion.
I'll second that with the addendum of bringing it back at our next meeting. Do we need to outline that, Counselor?
I don't think so, because it's already listed in the presentation that it will be coming back at the January 17th meeting. And when we made that decision on the initial, that we were going to have it at every meeting until the position was filled.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Do I have, all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Ferguson, we are on to 9.2, legal issues. Are there any legal issues this morning?
Not for this morning, Chairman Lucy. Next month, I believe, is a workshop, and so maybe the following month in February, we could plan on either before or after the commission meeting and attorney-client session.
Perfect.
Okay?
All right, we'll work towards getting that on the February agenda.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we'll on to our final public comment. Public comment, anybody? Going once, twice? Come on, you can come and talk about your Christmas list. Come on down. There's always once. It's always Christmas lists here. Right?
Mine grows every day.
And I'll ask you to say your name into the microphone, and then after, will you fill out a card with the clerk?
Sandra Pone.
Thanks, Sandra. Go ahead.
I live in Sparks, and I've never driven because I'm an uncontrolled epileptic. And I don't know if you guys take the bus, but I do. And when you guys changed bus 25, 26, and 9, okay, that restricts us in, not 9, but it restricts us in Sparks. I used to go to the store twice a month. I can't do that now because of where I would shop. Now I have to ask people because that flex bus is not right. I mean, it's wasting gas. I always see them from my apartment. They're all in the same area just driving around. The regular bus, 26, would be fine. I mean, it would use less gas. It would get people around, where they want to go, not where, okay, we can go here. And I just, if I want to go to Smith's, they would take me, but I would have to go back to the station and go up to CVS. But I can't do that, not all the time, because if I want go shopping, they can't drop me off on 6th Street where there is a bus stop. Not unless I get off the bus and take another bus at the McDonald's, or go back down to the main station and catch another bus. Like I said, I don't know about you guys, but it's really stupid. And there's a lot of people at my apartment building that take the bus that feel the same way. I mean, we need the bus back. I mean, we can't even go up to the hospital. Not unless we get off at the CVS, take the bus, call the Flex bus to go up to the hospital. Or we have to go back down to the main station. Doesn't make any sense. Even at that, you guys are still wasting gas on all those Flex buses. And then people like me that can't drive and at my apartment building have to go through a lot of hassle just to go around the corner on the bus that we had once before, in which we don't have now. I mean, there is a mall 10 minutes away from my apartment, and we can't even go over there. But you guys get these Flex buses going all over the place. But I did ask if we can go up to that mall. They said no, because the bus doesn't go up there. That's like, come on. I mean, we would like to go to the mall instead of taking 1.5 to 2 hours to go over to Meadowwood Mall, to go to the mall. We can't do that. But it takes forever. It takes one whole day just to go to the mall and come back, because that's 3 hours or more just to go there and come back. That's not including shopping, even Christmas shopping. I had to take a friend drop me off. I got lucky. But I did it all, and then it took me almost 2 hours to come home. So up there would be nice.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Maloney can meet with you. He's the head of our transit. And if you would sign in with Denise over here at the desk and sign a card. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further public comment this morning? Come on down, ma'am.
My name is Jerry Waymeyer, and I live at the same apartment complex that Sandra lives at. I drive a car, so I'm one of the fortunate ones, but there's so many people, almost 50% of the people that live there do not drive cars. They depend on this route that takes them up to the top of the hill by the hospital, by the Northern Nevada Medical Center, because they have doctors up there. They can do blood work up there. Also, I have people that I'm now driving all the way out to Vista Boulevard on the corner of Vista and Los Altos, because there's absolutely no bus service out there. I cannot for the life of me figure out how a city that is growing so rapidly, not just the city of Reno, but also the city of Sparks, I simply do not understand why you have absolutely no bus service out to Spanish Springs. And I guess that's basically what I have to say, that when you change that bus route with the bus number 25 and 26, it has really thrown a lot of the residents in my building into a total snit. They just don't know what to do. And so consequently, I volunteer my services, but I also would like you to know that I'm 73 years old, and I have a car that's 14 years old, and it's wearing out, and I'm wearing out. So please, I would ask you that you be a little more considerate and thoughtful of the people that live over in the East County, in Sparks, over in Spanish Springs, just that area over by Legends. There just doesn't seem to be any bus service anywhere to the east of Prater, except now my girlfriend, she has to get on the bus right on the corner of where we live, go down to the bus station in Sparks, wait 45 minutes for a Flex bus to pick her up, to take her up to the top of the hill on Prater Way. And then she has to do the same thing coming home. She has to go all the way back, wait for the Flex bus, then she has to go back down to the bus station. It's just a big hassle. So that's what I have to say about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. We are on to item 11, member items. Are there any items that anybody would like to add?
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Vice Chair.
Oh, thank you. Can I ask a question? May I ask a question? Since the public commenters are here. Am I allowed to do that?
No.
Oh, okay, forget it. Okay, so my suggestion would be, can we, on the flyer, I know Donna Clontz recommended it, that the number be on there
On the microtransit.
for the microtransit, for the flex drive. That was, okay. That's it, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mark, I hear this all the time, and I've lived in Spanish Springs in February, 33 years without bus service. So I'd really like to understand how microtransit works. Perhaps you can bring back an agenda item. We can talk about timing, what someone might expect in terms of the amount of time that it would take versus a fixed route. I think it's incumbent upon us to try to understand, the way that microtransit was supposed to dovetail in to take over some of the losses for fixed routes. So I'm curious here. And then, Ms. Cummings, when I held a town hall meeting, Vista was a huge issue. They asked about widening Vista. I realized that that's a City of Sparks road, but I also know that it's a regional road. So maybe we can have a conversation about the timing and some of the ways that we can potentially deal with Vista. I still get complaints about O'Brien Pass, which is the end of 7th Street that goes over to the backside of Sun Valley. Very, very dangerous road, but it is a regional road. A lot of people utilize that instead of going down 395 now and going through the Spaghetti Bowl or getting over to McCarran or whatever, they're using Golden Valley Boulevard and using O'Brien Pass to get into the backside of Sun Valley and then get out to Spanish Springs. Would really love to get in January sometime just some feedback on Lemon Valley Drive, where we are with that, to try to understand kind of the engineering and I want to keep it on the forefront. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Smith? Commissioner Delgado? Ms. Cummings, I have a couple things I want to add. One, I'd like to have a discussion in the South Meadows area, street lighting. Specifically, I know we're in the midst of the South Meadows multimodal study, but I want to know where street lighting comes into the street improvements down there, specifically the Veterans Parkway area off of Rio Wrangler, Steamboat Parkway. In the last couple months, there have been massive accidents there consistently, and it's due to the signalization of those intersections, but also the low light. Pedestrians are walking around there, people are dodging. I want to see what we talk about one time. Also, as it pertains to school zones, and I know school zones are dealt with at regional planning, and they're dealt with by each entity in which it is in the school district. But one of the issues that, as Vice Chair brought up forward this morning, is that some of these legacy schools, when, for example, Brown School sits on county unincorporated area. However, it is right up to our City of Reno, and now we're going to change road patterns through Western Skies, and RTC does have discussions about that. Now we're sending traffic down Western Skies as a condition of a development approval from the City of Reno, which ultimately is going to impact a county school where kids are. There aren't any improvements, the sidewalks, there aren't any flashers. What can we do? So I'd like to see something come back at the transit discussion next month in regards to school zones as it pertains to legacy schools within the area, whether it's in the City of Sparks, City of Reno, or the unincorporated county. I want to know what we're doing to address those safety concerns. And then one other thing is pedestrian safety. We work on this Vision Zero. Commissioner Delgado and I were having the conversation. we've got to somehow start formulating a process in which we get all three entities, the RTC, the school district, everybody on board to identify what are highly functional ways of getting pedestrian traffic to and from their destination safely, whether that's school kids, whether that's adults, whatever, seniors, whatever that may be, what those improvements. So I'd like to see that at the transit meeting in January as well. And then one thing I would like to add, Washoe County did bring online today, you can find out where your snowplow is. So if you get onto our website, you can find out where your snowplow is during this winter season. Fortunately, it's only in Incline in Crystal Bay, but it will be coming to higher elevations near you sooner rather than later, as soon as we get those automatic vehicle locators affixed to all of our snowplows, which we're in the process of doing. But if you are ever in question where your snowplow is, you can just jump on the Washoe County website, and you will be able to identify when your road will be plowed and where your plow is. So with that, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. One thing I did forget, if we could get an update, I know that the City of Reno, RTC, and the university are working on lighting on Evans in a collaboration. If we could just get an update on where that is. Sure. Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Yes, Mayor Smith.
City of Reno, are we anywhere on changing the speed limit on Veterans Parkway?
Yes. Yes.
Can we bring that?
We'll bring that back.
Can we have that an update in January? Sure.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. All right, seeing no other member items. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2020. We are adjourned.